He's broader, taller, and more devastatingly handsome than he was in high school, and I still hate his guts. But now, I'm stuck in a honeymoon suite with the man who ruined my life. The wedding invitation mocked me from my kitchen counter. Emma and James cordially invite you. I crumpled it in my fist, but the damage was done. My best friend was marrying my brother, which meant I'd have to face him again, Adrian Cross, the arrogant jerk who made my high school years a living nightmare. 10 years hadn't dulled the memory of his smirk when he'd sabotaged my valedictorian speech, replacing my carefully crafted words with a confession of love for the school mascot. The entire auditorium had erupted in laughter while I stood there, mortified, watching Adrian's shoulders shake with amusement from the back row. Now my phone buzzed. Emma's name flashed across the screen. "Please tell me you're coming early to help with the wedding prep," she begged. "I need you at the mountain lodge by Friday." I wanted to refuse, but Emma had been there for me through my messy divorce, my career implosion, and every dark moment in between. I owed her this. "I'll be there," I said, already regretting it. The mountain lodge was a 3-hour drive into the wilderness, a luxury resort where Emma and James had rented the entire property for their wedding weekend. As I pulled up the winding driveway, my stomach dropped. Adrian's sleek black Mercedes was already parked near the entrance. Of course, he'd arrived early, probably to claim the best room and remind everyone how successful he'd become. I'd seen his face in business magazines, CEO of a tech empire at 32, the same age as me, except he had billions while I was rebuilding from scratch. I grabbed my suitcase and walked into the lobby, where Emma rushed over with a panicked expression. "Thank God you're here. We have a tiny problem," she said, wringing her hands. "The lodge double-booked and we're one room short. You and Adrian are going to have to share the honeymoon suite." My blood turned to ice. "Absolutely not." "It's just for 3 nights," Emma pleaded. "Please, the suite has a couch." "One couch," Adrian's deep voice cut in from behind me. I turned to face him, and my breath caught despite my hatred. He'd gotten taller, broader, more devastatingly handsome, and I hated him even more for it. His dark eyes locked onto mine, filled with that same infuriating amusement. "Hello, Maya, miss me." The honeymoon suite was a cruel joke. Roses scattered across a king-sized bed, champagne chilling in a bucket, and soft romantic lighting that made the whole situation feel like a cosmic punishment. Adrian stood by the window, his tailored suit jacket slung over one broad shoulder, looking like he owned the place. "I'll take the couch," I said flatly, dropping my suitcase. "Don't be ridiculous. You'll barely fit on that thing," he replied without turning around. "We're adults, Maya. We can share a bed for 3 nights without it meaning anything." I wanted to argue, but my pride wouldn't let him see how much he still affected me. "Fine, but stay on your side, or I'll make sure everyone at this wedding knows about the time you cried during gym class in 10th grade. He turned, one eyebrow raised. "I had allergies." "Sure you did." The tension between us was suffocating as we unpacked in silence. I changed in the bathroom, emerging in modest pajamas while he sprawled across his side of the bed in just black boxer briefs, his toned chest on full display. I averted my eyes, hatting the flutter in my stomach. "Relax, Maya. I'm not going to bite," he said, his voice low and teasing. "You're insufferable," I muttered, climbing into bed and building a wall of pillows between us. "And you're still as uptight as you were in high school." I turned off the light, plunging us into darkness. My heart hammered as I felt the mattress shift with his weight. The room was too quiet, too intimate, and I was hyper-aware of every breath he took. "Why did you really sabotage my speech?" I whispered into the darkness. The silence stretched so long I thought he'd fallen asleep. Then his voice came, softer than I'd ever heard it. "Because you were leaving for Stanford, and I was stuck going to community college. You were going to forget all about me, and I couldn't stand it." My breath caught. "What?" But he didn't answer. His breathing had evened out, leaving me alone with a confession that changed everything I thought I knew about our past. I woke to find Adrian's arm draped across my waist, his face buried in my hair. We'd somehow destroyed the pillow wall during the night, and now we were tangled together like lovers. His warmth seeped into my skin, and for one dangerous moment, I didn't want to move. Then reality crashed back. I shoved him away, and he jolted awake, his eyes dark and disoriented. "Don't touch me," I hissed, scrambling out of bed. "You were the one who rolled over to my side," he shot back, running a hand through his messy hair. "I was trying to be a gentleman and not wake you." I fled to the bathroom, my heart racing. His confession from last night echoed in my mind. "You were going to forget all about me." What did that even mean? Adrian Cross, the golden boy who had everything, had been jealous of me. When I emerged, he was dressed in running gear, looking annoyingly perfect. "I'm going for a run. Try not to miss me too much," he said with that infuriating smirk. The moment he left, I called Emma. "Did Adrian ever say anything about me in high school?" I asked carefully. Emma's laugh crackled through the phone. "Are you serious? Maya, he was obsessed with you. James said Adrian used to watch you in the library for hours. We all thought it was obvious." My world tilted. "That's impossible. He hated me." "No, sweetie, you hated him. He just didn't know how to talk to you without acting like an idiot." I hung up, my mind reeling. Everything I'd believed for 10 years was a lie. Adrian hadn't tormented me out of cruelty. He'd done it because he couldn't handle his feelings. And now we were stuck in a bed together, the past colliding with a present I wasn't prepared for. That evening, the wedding party gathered for dinner. Adrian sat across from me, his eyes tracking my every movement. Under the table, his foot brushed against mine, accidentally or deliberately, I couldn't tell. "Stop looking at me like that," I whispered when everyone else was distracted. "Like what?" he murmured, leaning closer. "Like you want something." His smile was slow, predatory. "Maybe I do." The power went out at midnight, plunging the entire lodge into darkness. Thunder shook the windows as the storm rolled in with a vengeance, and I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. I'd been terrified of storms since I was a child, a fact I'd kept hidden from everyone. "Maya," Adrian's voice cut through the darkness. "You okay?" "I'm fine," I lied, but my voice shook. Lightning illuminated the room for a split second, and I saw him sitting up, watching me. Then the darkness returned, heavier than before. "You're scared," he said, not a question. I said I'm fine. Another crack of thunder made me flinch, and suddenly Adrian was there, his arms wrapping around me from behind, pulling me against his chest. "It's okay," he whispered into my hair. "I've got you." I should have pushed him away. Instead, I let myself sink into his warmth, his steady heartbeat grounding me as the storm raged outside. His hands stroked my arms in soothing circles, and I felt tears prick my eyes. "I remember now," he said quietly. "Sophomore year, the storm during the football game. You ran out of the bleachers, and I found you hiding under the equipment shed, shaking." I'd forgotten he'd been there that night. He'd sat with me in silence until the storm passed, never mentioning it again. "Why did you stay?" I asked. "Because even then, I couldn't stand to see you scared." I turned in his arms, and in the darkness, I could barely make out his face. But I felt the shift between us, the air charging with something more dangerous than the lightning outside. "Adrian," I whispered, and then his lips were on mine. The kiss was explosive, 10 years of unresolved tension igniting in an instant. His hands tangled in my hair as I gripped his shoulders, and we fell back onto the bed, the storm forgotten. This wasn't gentle or sweet. It was raw, desperate, a collision of past and present. We made love that night with a fierce intensity that left us both breathless, our bodies saying everything our words couldn't. I woke up alone. The storm had passed, and sunlight streamed through the windows, highlighting the empty space where Adrian had been. Panic seized my chest as I clutched the sheets to my bare skin. Last night had been a mistake, a beautiful, devastating mistake. The bathroom door opened, and Adrian emerged, fully dressed, his expression unreadable. "Last night was," I started, but he cut me off. "A mistake, I know." His voice was cold, distant, nothing like the man who'd whispered my name in the darkness. "We got caught up in the moment. Let's just forget it happened." His words were a slap to the face. I'd given him everything, and he was dismissing it like it meant nothing. "Fine," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Forgotten." He left without another word, and I sat there, feeling like the foolish girl I'd been in high school all over again. But I wouldn't cry. Not for Adrian Cross. Not again. At the wedding rehearsal that afternoon, I played my part perfectly, smiling and laughing while my heart felt like shattered glass. Adrian kept his distance, barely looking at me, and I told myself I was relieved. Emma pulled me aside during a break. "Are you okay? You seem off." "I'm perfect," I lied. But that night, as I lay in bed with the pillow wall rebuilt between us, I heard Adrian's voice in the darkness. "I lied this morning." I stayed silent, my heart racing. "Last night wasn't a mistake, Maya. It was the most real thing I've felt in years. But you deserve better than someone who ruined your life in high school. You deserve better than me." I turned over, and even in the darkness, I could feel his gaze. "Don't I get to decide what I deserve?" I whispered. The pillow wall came crashing down as he pulled me into his arms, and this time, when we kissed, it felt like a promise. The morning of the wedding rehearsal dinner, I was helping Emma with the floral arrangements when a sleek woman in designer clothes walked into the lobby. She was stunning, tall, blonde, perfect, and she was staring directly at Adrian with a predatory smile. "Adrian, darling," she called out, her voice dripping with familiarity. Adrian's face went pale. "Vanessa, what are you doing here?" "James invited me. We're still friends, remember?" She glided over and kissed his cheek, her hand lingering on his arm. "It's been too long." Emma leaned over and whispered, "That's Vanessa Hartley, Adrian's ex-fiancée. They were engaged last year." My stomach dropped. Engaged. He'd been engaged and never mentioned it. Not that he owed me an explanation, but after the last 2 nights. Vanessa's eyes found mine, sharp and assessing. "And who's this?" "Maya," Adrian said quietly. "An old friend." Friend, the word was a knife to my heart. Vanessa's smile widened. "How lovely. Adrian and I have so much catching up to do. You don't mind if I steal him away, do you?" I forced a smile. "Not at all." I watched them walk toward the terrace together, Vanessa's hand possessively on his arm, and felt like an idiot. Whatever I thought was happening between us was clearly one-sided. That evening at dinner, Vanessa sat next to Adrian, regaling the table with stories of their glamorous life together, charity galas, exotic vacations, their penthouse in Manhattan. I sat across from them, smiling until my face hurt, while Emma shot me worried glances. "We made such a beautiful couple, didn't we, Adrian?" Vanessa purred, showing off photos on her phone. Adrian's jaw was tight. "That was a long time ago, Vanessa." "Was it, though? You never really gave us proper closure." She leaned in, her voice dropping to a seductive whisper that everyone could still hear. "Maybe this weekend is our second chance." I excused myself and fled to our room, my composure finally cracking. I was packing my suitcase when Adrian burst through the door. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "Leaving. This was a mistake." He grabbed my wrist, spinning me around. "Vanessa means nothing to me." "Then why didn't you tell her the truth? Why did you call me a friend?" His expression crumbled. "Because I'm terrified, Maya. Everything I touch, I ruin. I ruined high school for you. I ruined my engagement. I can't ruin this too." "You want to know why Vanessa and I ended?" Adrian's voice was raw as he released my wrist. "Because on the day I was supposed to propose, I realized I was still in love with someone else. Someone I'd been in love with since I was 17 years old." My breath caught. "Adrian." "You, Maya, it's always been you." He ran his hands through his hair, his composure shattering. "After you left for Stanford, I tried to forget you. I dated, I built my company, I even got engaged to someone my family approved of. But every woman I met, I compared to you. Every achievement felt empty because you weren't there to see it." Tears streamed down my face. "You had a funny way of showing it in high school." I was a stupid kid who didn't know how to tell the smartest girl in school that he was in love with her. So I acted out, desperate for any attention from you, even if it was your anger. He stepped closer, cupping my face. I've regretted that speech every single day for 10 years. I destroyed the moment you'd worked so hard for because I was a selfish coward. Why didn't you ever tell me? I whispered. Because you deserve someone better, someone who didn't hurt you. His thumb brushed away my tears. But I'm a selfish man, Maya, and I can't watch you walk away again, not when I finally have a chance to make things right. I kissed him then, pouring 10 years of pain and longing into it. You're an idiot, Adrian Cross. I know, he murmured against my lips. I had a crush on you too, in high school, before the speech. He pulled back, stunned. What? Why do you think I was so devastated? It wasn't just about the humiliation. It was because the boy I'd secretly loved had betrayed me. I laughed through my tears. We wasted so much time. Then let's not waste any more. We made love again that night, but it was different. Slower, deeper, filled with whispered confessions and promises. He worshipped every inch of my skin, and I finally let myself believe this was real. Afterward, wrapped in his arms, he pressed a kiss to my temple. Tomorrow, I'm telling everyone we're together. What about Vanessa? She'll get over it. You're the only woman I want, Maya. You always have been. The next morning, I woke up feeling happier than I had in years. Adrian was already awake, watching me with such tenderness that my heart ached. Good morning, beautiful, he murmured, pulling me closer. Good morning yourself. We were interrupted by frantic knocking. Emma burst in, tears streaming down her face. The wedding's ruined, she sobbed. We threw on clothes and rushed out to find chaos. The wedding cake had been destroyed, completely smashed, the beautiful 5-tier masterpiece reduced to rubble. The florist had received a cancellation call that morning, supposedly from Emma. Half the decorations were missing. Who would do this? Emma cried. I saw Vanessa in the corner, her expression a careful mask of sympathy, but her eyes were cold and satisfied. I knew immediately. I'll fix this, I said, grabbing Emma's shoulders. Adrian and I will fix everything, I promise. Adrian and I spent the entire day racing against time. We drove 2 hours to the nearest bakery and convinced them to create an emergency wedding cake. I called every florist within 100 miles until I found one willing to deliver. Adrian used his business connections to source replacement decorations overnight. By late afternoon, we were exhausted but triumphant. The wedding would happen. That evening, I confronted Vanessa in the hallway. I know what you did, I said quietly. She smiled, dropping the innocent act. Prove it. Besides, do you really think Adrian will choose you? A divorced nobody with a failed career. I can give him the life he deserves, status, connections, a future. He doesn't love you. Love, she laughed. Love fades, sweetheart, power doesn't. And I'm not going to let some high school crush ruin what Adrian and I built. There is no you and Adrian anymore. Her eyes flashed with rage. We'll see about that. The wedding's tomorrow. A lot can happen in 24 hours. I returned to our room to find Adrian on the phone, his face grave. What's wrong? I asked. He hung up, looking defeated. That was my board. There's a vote tomorrow, same time as the wedding. If I'm not there, I lose my position as CEO. Someone leaked confidential information and timed it deliberately. Vanessa, I breathed. Probably, she still has friends on the board. He pulled me into his arms. I'm so sorry, Maya. I have to go back to New York. I'll miss the wedding. Then I'm coming with you. You can't come with me, Maya. Emma needs you here, Adrian said, but his arms tightened around me like he couldn't bear to let go. And you need me there, I insisted. Emma will understand. But when I told Emma, her face fell despite her brave smile. Of course, go with him, I understand. I saw the hurt in her eyes, and guilt crushed my chest. She'd been there for me through everything, and now I was abandoning her on the most important day of her life. I pulled Adrian aside. I can't leave her, but you have to fight for your company. Come with me, he pleaded. We'll video call into the wedding. Emma will understand. Would you understand if James abandoned you for a business meeting? I cupped his face. This is your crisis, but it's not mine to solve. Emma is my crisis, and I need to be here for her. His jaw clenched. So we're just going to be apart again, after everything. It's one day, Adrian. One day can change everything, you know that. His eyes were dark with an emotion I couldn't name. What if this is a test? What if you're choosing her over us? That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Maya. He pulled away, running his hands through his hair. I've spent 10 years without you. I finally have you back, and now you're asking me to leave. I'm not asking you to leave. I'm asking you to trust that we're strong enough to survive one day apart. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded curtly. Fine, I'll go alone. He left that night, and the cold space in our bed felt like a chasm. I tried calling him, but it went straight to voicemail. Fear gnawed at my chest. What if Vanessa was there in New York? What if he realized I wasn't worth fighting for? The next morning, Emma was a bundle of nerves. Is Adrian coming back? She asked as I helped her into her dress. I don't know, I admitted. We fought. She squeezed my hand. He'll come back. He loves you, Maya. Anyone can see that. The ceremony was beautiful, but my heart wasn't in it. I kept checking my phone, but there was nothing from Adrian. As James and Emma exchanged vows, tears streamed down my face, but they weren't happy tears. Then, just as the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," the doors burst open. Adrian stood there, still in his suit from the board meeting, breathing hard like he'd run the whole way. I'm sorry I'm late, he said, his eyes locked on mine. But I needed to be here, for you. After the ceremony, Adrian pulled me aside to the terrace, where the sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. He looked exhausted, but happier than I'd ever seen him. What happened at the vote? I asked. I lost, he said simply. My heart sank. Adrian, no. And I don't care. He cupped my face, his smile radiant. They can have the company, they can have the title, but I'm not losing you again, Maya, not for any boardroom or any amount of money. But you worked so hard. I worked hard for the wrong things. I built an empire trying to prove I was worthy of you, but I was looking at it all wrong. You don't love me for what I have. You love me despite what I've done. He pulled out a small velvet box, and my breath stopped. I've carried this ring for 3 years. I bought it after Vanessa and I broke up, thinking someday if I was lucky enough to find you again, I'd be ready. He dropped to one knee, and I gasped. Maya, I've loved you since I was 17 years old. I've made mistakes, I've hurt you. And I've wasted years being a coward. But I'm not wasting another second. Marry me, not because of some elaborate plan or corporate merger, but because I can't imagine a single day of my life without you in it. Tears poured down my face as I dropped to my knees in front of him, framing his face with my hands. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring on my finger, a simple, perfect diamond, and kissed me as the sunset blazed around us. Inside, I could hear the wedding reception starting, the music and laughter floating out to us. We should get back, I murmured against his lips. In a minute, he whispered. I just want to hold the woman I love a little longer. 6 months later, we had our own wedding in the same mountain lodge, in the same honeymoon suite where everything had changed. Emma was my maid of honor, and James was Adrian's best man. Instead of a tech empire, Adrian had started a nonprofit using his wealth to provide scholarships for kids who couldn't afford college, kids like he'd been. As we danced at our reception, I looked up at the man who'd been my enemy, my tormentor, my friend, and finally, my everything. Any regrets? He asked. Only that we didn't figure this out sooner. He spun me around, pulling me close. Then let's make up for lost time. And we did. Every single day for the rest of our lives, we chose each other, in one bed, one home, one beautifully complicated life that began with hate and ended with a love that rewrote our entire story.